Go.
Happy St. Patrick's Day / Dr. Seuss Day.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Dr. Seuss. Early.
Whose birthday is it?
Dr. Seuss.
And mine.
Yeah, yours is coming up. Well, who you gonna say hi to?
Hey.
Come on.
Is Don gonna?
Yeah, Mr. Don's in Africa, but you can say hi. Say, hey, Mr. Don.
Hey, Mr. Don.
All right, tell him bye. We gotta be quick today.
Bye.
Tell him bye. All right, so see you next week. All right, good job. Go. Go. All right.
See you next week.
All right. Today we're talking about the man born blind, a miracle made of clay. It's only in John. Well, it's not only in John, but we're only going to stay in John today. John chapter 8, verses 59, and then all of chapter 9. So, John 9:1 tells us this man has been blind since birth. So, it's not like something happened to him, that he lost his vision, that he had an accident. He has never, ever been able to see. And to me, that's what makes this, not parable, I want to say story, but makes this really hit home to me, because at the end, he's able to see. Jesus restores his sight, and he's able to see colors for the first time. He's able to see trees. He can put visuals to the smells that he smells on a daily basis, the things he's touching, the road he walks on every day. He can actually see, and that just, I don't know how to describe it. That's just unreal to me, and shows me how blessed we are. But that also makes a bigger impact on this guy because he's never seen. He's been blind from birth. So a little backstory, like I always like to do. Back then, when you have an infirmity, when you have something wrong with you, you're called a beggar. And we always hear in the Bible, where do the beggars sit? They sit along the side of the road. They sit at the entrance of the temple. They sit at the temple gates. They sit where there's people coming. It reminds me of the lame man. Where was he sitting? Outside where Jesus was preaching. They try to get where the most people come through. And why? It reminds me of the homeless people today. The people who sit on the side of the road. Why do they choose the intersection coming out of Walmart? How many people go into Walmart? How many people see them when they come and when they go? And how many of those people stop and help? Whether it's food, money, clothing, whatever they feel, how many of them stop and talk to them? And I know this day and age, we've got to be careful about that. It is a little scary. You've got to be more cautious than you've had to in the past. But these people who need help, the people who need something, they sit in a highly trafficked area. And it's the same place back then. So this man was called a beggar because he was blind. And he was at the temple begging people, crying out, wanting people to help him. Now, I don't know necessarily what this guy would need help with. He may be asking for food. He may be asking for money. He may be asking for clothing. I'm not sure. But he is at the temple, in the front of the temple, begging on the ground. They're always sitting on the ground. Amazes me too. All these people are sitting on the ground. So he's sitting there begging. And we do not know what caused this man to be blind. We just know he was blind from birth. And back then, if you were born with an infirmity, if you were blind, if you were deaf, if you had a foot that was messed up, or if you had the, I think it's the cleft lip or whatever, if you had something physically wrong with you, people truly, wholeheartedly believe that was because of a sin. Either you sinned yourself, or in this case, since it was an infant, that an infant came out blind, it was the parent's fault. It was a result of the sin of a parent. Now, I don't believe that today. And we have all the medical stuff today that they did not have back then. But they truly believe that this man had done something wrong, and that's why he was blind. Or since he was blind from birth, they truly believed that his parents were bad, that his parents had sinned, and this was his punishment for them, so they kind of stayed away. They didn't want nothing to do with a sinner. Everybody thought they were better than that. Verses 2 through 5 distinctly tells us, plain as day, that this is not true. Jesus tells the disciple, this man had no sin, but the blindness was not a result of a sin. Not his nor his parents. He was just blind. It happened. And back then, it kind of makes me think of, if you don't have an explanation for something, you're just going to make something up. And that's kind of what I feel like here. They don't have a logical reason of why this guy was blind, so they just made something up. Oh, it had to be because he's bad, or it had to be because his parents were bad. So he's sitting there. Jesus is in the temple. He's teaching. He sees the man sitting in front of the temple, and he comes back out. He causes an uproar in the temple. Some disagreements were going on. They kick Jesus out. Jesus comes out of the temple, and he stops. And we see in chapter 9, verses 6 and 7, he sees this man. And chapter 9, verse 6 and 7. I don't know if I said that right. But he sees this man. He stops and talks to him. And not only does he, number one, recognize him, he didn't just keep walking past. Not only did he not only stop and look at him, he talked to the man. Then the Bible tells us, Jesus spit on the ground. And in the spot where he spit, when you're on the ground, you have dirt. What happens when you have dirt? When you make dirt dirty, when you make dirt wet, it becomes mud. The Bible tells us it made clay. It makes that hard, something like a paste. And he picks it up, and he puts the clay on this blind man's eyes. Now, as Jesus is having, we do not know the conversation Jesus is having with this man. We just know Jesus spit on the ground. Jesus made clay and put the clay on this guy's eyes. Now, is he telling this guy what he's doing? I don't know. Does this guy have any clue? I have no idea. Did Jesus tell him, hey, I'm going to make you well again. I'm going to make you see. Do you trust me? I don't know. I don't know if Jesus is just sitting there and not telling the man and just decides to pick up and start smearing stuff on his face. I'm not sure. But as we go on in chapter 9, when Jesus does this, he puts the clay on this man's eyes. Jesus then tells him to go to the pool of Siloam and wash his eyes. Now, unlike Naaman, we know Naaman was told to dip 7 times and his leprosy would be gone. Unlike other accounts in the Bible where they're told to do something a certain number of times to be clean or to do anything a certain number of times, he does not tell this blind man how many times. He just says, get up, go to the pool of Siloam, and wash. Now, this man is still blind. He now has, to my imagine, I can feel it being cold. I mean, I know spit's not cold, but you have this wet stuff, gritty stuff on your face. It's now smeared all over your face. And I'm probably thinking, okay, this guy just smeared something all over my face. And now I've got to walk. I don't know how far he walked. I don't know how far the pool to Siloam was. But not only do people know he's blind, now he's walking with this stuff on his eyes. He's now being seen, and he's got to go. When he goes, he has to make a choice. Okay, if I wash this off, am I really going to be able to see? Now, with me, I'd probably want to wash it off anyway, not knowing what I look like, want to get that dirt off my face, want to feel better. And so the man does. He goes to the pool at Siloam, and he washes. Again, we talked about last week, no hesitation. He didn't hesitate. He didn't wait till the next day. He didn't wait until Jesus stayed, and went his own way. He got up and he went. I'm going to say immediately. He gets up. He goes on his way. He washes his eyes. When he washes his eyes, he can see the blue of the water. And I can just imagine he's probably looking down and he can actually see colors. And he's probably thinking, what is this? I can see. And he's probably thinking in his mind, this is not real. Is it true? Is it true? And in my mind, I'd be filling my eyes. And then I would look around and you can make out people. You can make out, I don't know what's around there, but say there was a tree, there's flowers, there's something. You can make it out. You can make out birds. You can make out there may have been a frog in the water. I don't know. But he could see. Then what does he do? And it reminds me again, there's so many stories that parallel to this. When I was studying this, and I could say, okay, well, this could go this story, this could go to that one. But when he does, he goes back to Jesus. It immediately reminded of the 10 men, and only one went back and said thank you. Remember, the 10 lepers were walking. Jesus told them, go, you'll be healed. They start walking. The leprosy disappears. Only one goes back and says, thank you. And Jesus says, didn't I heal 10 of you? And only one came back. Again, verse 8 of chapter 9 tells us he went back to see Jesus, to physically see him. He can actually see, put a face to the voice, put a face to the man who is able to see, who put that dirt in his eyes, the clay in his eyes. As he's walking back, verse 8 tells us people did not think he was the same man. There's no way this was the blind man that was just here, that was just begging for whatever it was, money, food, whatever. This cannot be him. This cannot be the blind man we see every single time we go into this temple. This cannot be the same guy. Verse 9, what does it tell us? The blind man says, yes, it is me. I am that guy. I am that guy that you walked past. I am that guy you made fun of. I am that guy that you didn't give the time of day. I am that guy you didn't help. I am that guy that you all have called a beggar. I am that guy that you all think that has sin, that has some major sin that caused me to be blind. I am that guy. Then when he tells them that in verse 9, everything changes in 180. All of a sudden, now they're interested. First it was, it can't be him. There's no way. He's not worthy. Whatever you want to fit in there. It cannot be him. Then they find out it's him, and what they say, what happened? How did it happen? Who did this? What happened? Were you putting it on all that? What happened? How can you really see? You can just imagine the 1,000,001 questions going on. And it reminds me of when we talked about Nathaniel, when he believed, and I just lost my train of thought, so we'll just move on. But there was a point in Nathaniel that this made me think of. But he answered these questions. Now, and part of him answering these questions, two things happened. The Pharisees got mad. And the Pharisees got mad for two reasons. One, they couldn't explain it. They do not understand how this man who has been sitting at the gate, or I'm going to say the gate, but sitting at the temple, every time they go in the temple, he's not a new man. It's not like they've never seen him before. They've seen him time and time and time and time again and could not see. They go in the temple and he can't see. They come out of the temple and this man can see. They cannot explain it. It's something they cannot do. They do not know how it happened. And the second reason they got mad is, guess what? It took place on the Sabbath. And we know that is a huge no-no. You are not supposed to do anything on the Sabbath. It doesn't matter who you are. No healing, no work, nothing is to be done on the Sabbath. Well, so now it escalates. And they go to the guy, and they go to the guy's parents, and the parents say, we'll have to go ask him. They go to the blind man. The blind man admitted it was Jesus. Admitted that Jesus did this. Now, that got him in trouble. They didn't like that answer. And we see in chapter 9, if we would have kept reading, when he admits that it's Jesus, the Pharisees immediately kicked him out. They kicked him out. They cast him out of the synagogue. They say, get out. You're no longer welcome here. Get out. Verse 37 tells us, Jesus tells this man that, hey, I am the Son of God. And the man believed. So, we see, I don't want to say a total transformation, because we don't really know at the beginning, this blind man, if he believed or not. We know that he was hearing Jesus speak because he was outside and he heard him. But we don't know if he heard him just because he happened to be sitting there, or if he knew Jesus was coming and so he decided to sit at the temple that day. We don't know. But after he was healed, he believed. And he went back to Jesus, to talk to Jesus, to see Jesus. And we see that when he does see Jesus, Jesus says, I am the Son of God. And that's all it took. All it took. And the guy said, I believe. I believe. And so yes, I think, or I would say I know that with him Jesus taking the blindness away, that helped with the belief. Like, okay, this happened to me. This is real. It happened to me. This guy is who he says he is. He changed. I'm not going to say he changed because I don't know what type of person he was before. But he is now a true believer. So what can we learn from this guy? What can we learn from this guy who is blind? And now Jesus made clay out of dirt and made him see. The first thing we can see is we should do good as we pass by. And this hits home. Jesus stopped and talked to this man. He saw a need and he responded to it. How many times do we see a need and, oh, I'm in a hurry. I've got to get somewhere. I've got 5 minutes. I'm running late. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I'll pick up that the next time I see it and I'll bring it back to you. Or, oh yeah, last week, someone at school said that they needed some food and I meant to stop by their house. I meant to pick them up some extra groceries and I just forgot. How many times do we see an opportunity and we let it pass? We think, oh, somebody else will do it. Or I don't have time for that right now. It doesn't fit into my schedule. No, Jesus stopped. He had just got thrown out. He made the people angry. And he still took time to stop. He could have stormed by. He could have been like all the other people who didn't give this guy time of day. But he stopped and he talked to him. As Christians, every day we are supposed to look for opportunities to do good. And they're everywhere. They're everywhere. You don't have to leave your house. All you have to do is open the door. And I guarantee you there is an opportunity for a neighbor. For how many times you go down the road and someone's broken down. Or if you're in your house, you just have to open the door. How many people get mail delivered every single day? An opportunity to say to your mail carrier, to UPS, to FedEx, to whoever comes to your house. They may not come every day. Some of us, they come multiple times a day. Sometimes they come once a week, once a month, whatever. I'm saying you look on Facebook. We're in the social media world. How many times do we see on Facebook someone in need? Someone that just needs someone to listen to. Someone that just needs a friend. Are we letting that opportunity pass by? Or are we taking that? I'm not saying publicly blast it. You can private message. You can text. You can do whatever. There's opportunities all around us. Are we taking advantage of them? The second thing we can learn is maturing in our faith is a process. It don't just come. You're baptized and man, you just have all this, everything. You never have to learn anything anymore. No, we have to read the Bible every day. Then we have to have fellowship with Christians. Then we have to pray about it. And when we do all three of these things consistently, we make progress. We grow. How do we grow? If we read the Word, we learn. And we keep reading it. And we learn more and more and more. And building on, just like today in this devotional, how many times have I said, oh, well, when we studied this, or this reminds me of this, or this reminds me of that, or this is the same thing that happened in the next thing or the last thing we talked about. It all connects. How would I know that if I don't continually read? If I don't continually look for myself? Well, okay. I read my word. Okay, I don't have to go to church. I don't have to be with my friends. I don't have to be with Christian friends to grow. Well, don't they kind of influence you? Shouldn't they, I should say? You're sitting at church and you might hear something you don't know. I've done it. Wednesday night class, I've been able to sit in there. I usually teach and I've been able to sit in there. And the lady in front of me probably is ready for me to move because about every week I lean up and I'm like, hey, what does this mean? Hey, have you all talked about this? Hey, isn't that related to what we talked about last week? Hey, where is he going? And I know she wants to turn around and just say, leave me alone. But that's how I learn. Would I have that sitting at home? Would I have that if I didn't go to church? Have that person to bounce back off of? Have a group of Christians? That's my fellowship. Have friends. Have someone in common that I can go eat with, that I can go to the ball field with, that I can go sit at the ball game, at the basketball court with. Whatever it is, my fellowship. And then my prayer life. Letting Jesus help me. Pray to Jesus, this is what I'm doing. This is what I need help with. All of that is progress. All three of those things are going to work together and I'm going to grow. I'm going to grow. I'm going to mature in my faith. Now, is it all going to happen in the same day? No. It's, for me, a lifelong process. It is a process. Thirdly, it takes courage to stand up for Jesus. We have to stand strong in the face of adversity. This man was getting it right and left. When Jesus healed him and he came back in to see Jesus and all these people were questioning him, and the Pharisees came up to him and they didn't like the answer. They go to his parents and they say, go back to my son. They go back to him. He had to stand up for Jesus, knowing the consequences. And what are the consequences? He got kicked out. He got thrown out, so you're never welcome back. Get out. We don't want to see you anymore. He still stood up for Jesus. We have circumstances in church, in our jobs, in our home life. We have to stand up for what's right. Is there going to be adversity? Yes. Is there going to be repercussions? Yes. But we've got to stand up for what's right. Fourthly, when we believe, we will worship. We have to make worship a priority. What did this guy do? He went back. He was talking to Jesus. Jesus said, I'm the Son of God. He said, I believe. I believe. And I do not think it stopped right there. I think this man continued to believe, continued to grow, and probably went and told other people about what happened and made believers out of other people just from his personal experience. We have to make worship a priority. Lastly, the point was the blindest of all are those who will not see. Now think that for a minute. The blindest of all, the people who are the blindest are the ones who, I'm going to say, refuse to see, will not see the truth, don't want to see the truth. They want to stay blind because if they become unblind, if they become they can see, they have to admit they were wrong. They've got to change their ways. They got to change the things they're doing, and they don't want to. They like what they're doing. They like what's going on. We have to open our eyes to the truth of God. Again, that goes back to point number two. Number two, maturing is a process of faith, maturing our faith is a process. We have to read the Word, but if we read the Word, it's going to open our eyes to what really is going on, to what we really need to be doing, the person we really need to be. So are we willing to open our eyes and take that? Are we willing to say, okay, I've done this wrong, or I've thought this way and it's wrong, or maybe I shouldn't be doing this anymore? The blind man did all this, and it amazes me each week how we can take one simple thing and get all these different points out of it. We had a blind man. A blind man. That's all we knew about him, is he was blind from birth, and he was a beggar. Then the rest of the story comes after he was healed, but he was just a beggar, a blind man. And we realized that we should look for opportunities from this man because he was helped, and look what it did. It opened doors for other people. It made us, maturing our faith is a process. He had to stand up for Jesus, so we learn it takes courage to stand up for Jesus. We learn that we're going to worship if we believe. He believed. He worshiped God. He started living the life he needed to live, and then he opened his eyes to the truth of God. When Jesus said, I am the Son of God, he said, I believe. He opened his eyes. He was willing to learn and willing to listen. That is my devotional for this week. Next week, we will talk about Thomas. I don't believe it. So, you probably know him as Doubting Thomas, but that is who we'll talk about next week. I hope everybody has a great week. And as always, thanks for listening.